Liz Cheney has been outspoken in her desire to keep former President Donald Trump from retaking the Oval Office. And she's also been coy about whether she will launch a presidential bid of her own. But could her pursuit of one of those goals potentially damage the other? A new poll suggests that if Liz Cheney really wants Trump out of office, then she might be best served sitting on the sidelines. A Yahoo YouGov survey released Tuesday shows that the outgoing Wyoming Congresswoman's presence in the race might actually swing the election to Donald Trump. The poll found that in a head-to-head matchup between Trump and Joe Biden, the current president holds a 4-point lead. But when Cheney is added to the equation as a third-party candidate, well, Trump comes out by 8 points over Biden, with Cheney placing a distant third at 11%. The Congresswoman, according to this poll, would siphon almost all of her support from Biden and not from Trump. Now, that certainly adds up, given her current standing among members of both parties. The survey also found that right now, Cheney is far, far more popular with Democrats than with Republicans. 59% of Democrats rate Liz Cheney favorably, while just 18% have an unfavorable opinion of her. But the reverse is true of Republicans. Just 18% of Republicans have a positive view of Cheney, compared to a staggering 61% who do not. Now, that lack of popularity among conservatives certainly can't be chalked up to her voting record, according to statistics compiled by 538. Cheney actually voted in line with Donald Trump's position a staggering 92.9% of the time. That is a higher percentage than some members of Congress who are thought to be MAGA stalwarts, like Congressman Jim Jordan, or far-right House member Paul Gosar, or even Elise Stefanik, who replaced Cheney after the Wyoming Congresswoman was dumped from House leadership. So no, it is not her voting record that caused her popularity among Republicans to crater. It is her increasingly vocal quest to keep Donald Trump out of the White House.
He cannot be our nominee, and he certainly cannot ever be elected president again. And I think that I know that there are many, many Republicans who feel that way all across the country. And, whatever is necessary to make sure that he's not the nominee, and certainly that he's not elected, there are many of us who are going to fight to do everything necessary. Certainly, I intend to be a big part of making sure that we protect the nation from the threat that he poses.
The question is, how exactly should she go about doing that? Because if the data is any indication and true, then running for president just may not be the best way. Joining us now is Reecie Colbert. She is a Democratic strategist and the founder of Black Women Views Media. Reecie, thank you so much for being here. First of all, I'm always so surprised when my extremely left-leaning friends are obsessed with Cheney. Like, she's almost become like this godlike figure to them. And it's almost like they're ignoring the fact that she voted with Donald Trump more than 90% of the time. It's just become so strange.
Well, it is strange. The bar is obviously very low for never Trump Republicans. But I think there's a huge difference between, hailing her anti-Trump views as opposed to supporting her. So I think that people are getting a little bit carried away with this martyrdom that they're trying to bestow on Liz Cheney, because at the end of the day, whether or not she supports Trump, she is a true and true Republican, and her voting record shows that.
Do you agree with the poll's findings? I mean, do you think Cheney running as an independent would actually end up really, really helping former President Trump?
Absolutely. I agree with that. She doesn't stand a chance of really knocking off enough Republican votes. I mean, she got destroyed in Wyoming in the primary, and she has the Cheney name behind her, and it didn't make a difference. And so there might be some people who, you might have some Republicans who understand that, or at least in 2020, understood that Trump posed an existential threat to the future of this country, that might be more inclined to have a protest vote of sort for Liz Cheney. And so I think people who are flirting with the idea of supporting her are really wrongheaded in this decision.
So if she means what she says, and her mission is really to keep Donald Trump out of the White House, and running for president isn't going to work based on this poll, what do you think she should do?
Well, I think, for one, if is a big if, right?
Yeah.
I think this whole thing is a brand building exercise for her. She's building up her bona fides. I think that she should get behind Democrats, for one. She calls herself having a pact to make sure that election deniers do not win. But then in an interview after she lost her primary, she said she would never vote for a Democrat ever. So I think there's a lot of hypocrisy and a lot of grandstanding that she's doing. But if she really means what she says, then she should put her money where her mouth is, and that is behind Democrats.
So you are a Democratic strategist. I was talking about, good friends that I have who are hardcore Democrats and obsessed with her. I mean, what is going on? It seems like in a way what she's done has worked because she's got like this loyal following.
We know. Even I can say this as a Democratic strategist myself, Democratic voters can be very fickle.
Yeah.
And they can go with the wind. And so I would not put a lot of stock in that. She's getting amazing press right now from the media in particular, but in her role as January 6th Commission co-chair. So I wouldn't place my bets in that. I wouldn't put money on her when it comes to that continued Democratic support.
When you bring up the media and her coverage, just to sort of call out the media for a second, they're guilty of it too. I mean, they focus solely on her being anti-Trump, and no one ever seems to ask her about her voting record and some of her controversial votes in the past.
Absolutely. She's completely out of step with the average voter. She's against abortion rights. She's against voting rights. And so I think she should absolutely be held more accountable with her voting record. And I think if she were to get involved in a primary, whether it's trying to get a Republican primary or if she tried to do an independent run, a lot of this really easygoing coverage as she's going to get is going to look a lot different for her.
Well, we certainly know how you feel about her. You haven't minced any words, Reecie. Thank you for coming on tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.